Jayne Mansfield was a name that echoed through Hollywood. She was famous for her platinum blonde hair and stunning figure. People saw her as a blonde bombshell, a rival to Marilyn Monroe. But this image was only a small part of who she truly was. Behind the glamour and the headlines, there was a woman of incredible depth and intelligence. She was not just a creation of the Hollywood studio system. She was a smart, talented, and driven individual who carefully crafted her own public persona. Jayne knew exactly what the world wanted to see, and she gave it to them with a wink and a smile, all while hiding the complexities of her true self. Born Vera Jane Palmer, she was a woman of many talents. She had a reported IQ of 160, a genius-level intellect that was often overlooked. Jayne was a classically trained musician who could play both the violin and the piano with skill and passion. She was also a linguist, fluent in multiple languages, which was a rare accomplishment for any star of her era. These gifts were not part of the character she played for the cameras. They belonged to the private woman who dreamed of being recognized for more than just her looks. She wanted to be seen as a serious artist, a performer with a mind as captivating as her appearance. Jayne was also a devoted mother to 5 children. She balanced the demands of a high-profile career with the joys and challenges of raising a family. In an era when many stars were encouraged to keep their private lives separate from their public image, Jayne proudly brought her children into the spotlight. Her home, the famous Pink Palace, was filled with love, laughter, and the energy of her kids. She was a pioneer in many ways, showing the world that a woman could be both a global superstar and a loving, present mother. This dual identity was central to her being, a fact her daughter Mariska would spend a lifetime trying to fully comprehend. Her story is one of ambition and paradox. Jayne Mansfield wanted success, and she achieved it on a massive scale. Yet she also felt trapped by the very image that made her famous. She longed for roles that would challenge her as an actress, roles that would allow her to show the world the sharp intellect and emotional range she possessed. The Hollywood of the 1950s and 1960s, however, was not always ready for a woman who was both beautiful and brilliant. Her journey was a constant negotiation between the person she was and the star she was expected to be, leaving behind a complex legacy that invites a closer look. Mariska Hargitay was only 3 years old when her mother's life was cut short. She was left with very few memories, just fragmented images and a profound sense of loss that she described as the scar of my soul. Growing up without her mother, Mariska was surrounded by the whispers and sensational stories that defined Jayne Mansfield's public life. She saw the magazine covers and heard the gossip, but the real woman remained a mystery to her. This void created a deep-seated need to connect with the mother she never truly knew. She wanted to understand the person behind the persona, the heart behind the headlines. This quest for understanding became a defining journey for Mariska. She felt a powerful pull to uncover the truth of her mother's story, to peel back the layers of myth and misunderstanding. She embarked on a personal investigation, speaking with people who knew Jayne, reading her letters, and studying her work. This search was not just about learning facts, it was about feeling a connection. Mariska wanted to know what her mother dreamed of, what made her laugh, and what she feared. It was a daughter's attempt to build a relationship across time, to find her mother in the echoes she left behind. The culmination of this journey is her documentary. For the first time, Mariska decided to share her deeply personal exploration with the world. The film, which premiered at prestigious festivals in 2025, represents a lifetime of questions and a search for answers. It was a brave step, requiring her to be vulnerable about her own pain and her complicated feelings. In the documentary, Mariska and her siblings speak on camera together for the first time about their mother, creating a collective portrait of Jayne Mansfield from the perspective of those who loved her most. Through this process, Mariska sought to reclaim her mother's narrative. She wanted to show the world the Jayne she had discovered, the brilliant, ambitious, and loving woman who was so much more than her public image. The documentary is more than just a film. It is an act of love and a final gift to her mother. It is Mariska's way of saying, "I see you, I understand you, and I want the world to see you too." It is a powerful testament to a daughter's enduring love and her refusal to let her mother's true story be lost to history. Jayne Mansfield arrived in Hollywood with big dreams and a sharp mind. She understood the business of show business better than most. She knew that to get noticed, she needed an angle, a persona that would capture the public's imagination. So she leaned into the blonde bombshell image, dyeing her hair platinum and emphasizing her famous physique. Her breakout role on Broadway cemented this persona, which she then brought to the screen. She became an overnight sensation in films like A Star Whose Name Was synonymous with glamour and sex appeal. But this success was a double-edged sword. While the bombshell identity made her a star, it also placed her in a golden cage. Hollywood producers and audiences had a very specific idea of who Jayne Mansfield was, and they were not interested in seeing her as anything else. She was typecast, offered roles that required her to be beautiful and bubbly, but rarely complex or serious. This was a source of immense frustration for Jayne. She was an intelligent woman who had studied drama and dreamed of being a great actress, but she found her artistic ambitions consistently blocked by the limitations of her own fame. Despite these frustrations, Jayne was a savvy businesswoman who took control of her own career in ways that were ahead of her time. She was one of the first major stars to willingly pose for magazine, understanding the power of publicity. She also made history by appearing nude in the 1963 film, a bold move that challenged the conventions of the era. Jayne was not a passive victim of the studio system. She was an active participant in building her brand. She knew how to generate headlines and keep her name in the public eye, even when the quality of her film roles began to decline. Her home life was just as important to her as her career. With 5 children from 3 marriages, Jayne was a dedicated mother who created a vibrant and loving environment for her family. She famously had her Beverly Hills mansion painted pink and installed a heart-shaped pool, creating a whimsical world for her children. This dedication to her family was a side of her that the public rarely saw. They saw the movie star, the sex symbol, the party girl. But behind the scenes, she was a mother trying to give her children a life filled with love and stability, all while navigating the treacherous waters of Hollywood fame. On the night of June 29, 1967, Jayne Mansfield's vibrant life came to a sudden and tragic end. She was traveling to New Orleans for a television appearance after a successful performance at a supper club in Biloxi, Mississippi. In the car with her were her boyfriend, attorney Sam Brody, and a young driver named Ronnie Harrison. In the back seat, 3 of her children, Mariska, Mickey Jr., and Zoltan, slept soundly. The night was dark, and the rural stretch of U.S. Route 90 was shrouded in a thick fog, possibly intensified by a truck ahead that was spraying for mosquitoes. In the early hours of the morning, their 1966 Buick Electra crashed into the back of that slow-moving tractor-trailer. The impact was catastrophic. The 3 adults in the front seat, Jayne, Sam Brody, and Ronnie Harrison, were unalived instantly. The force of the collision was so severe that it sheared the top of the car off. Miraculously, the children in the back seat survived. They were shielded from the worst of the impact and escaped with relatively minor physical injuries. 3-year-old Mariska was left with a zigzag scar on the side of her head, a permanent physical reminder of the night that changed her life forever. In the aftermath of the crash, a horrific and persistent urban legend began to circulate. The rumor claimed that Jayne Mansfield's head was separated in the accident from her body. This gruesome detail captured the public's imagination and has, for many decades, overshadowed the true story of her unliving. However, this myth is completely false. The undertaker who prepared her body for burial confirmed that while her head injuries were severe, her head was firmly attached. The rumor likely started because of a blonde wig that was found at the scene, which onlookers may have mistaken for her actual hair and head. The tragic accident cemented Jayne's place in Hollywood lore, but in the most heartbreaking way. At just 34 years old, her immense potential was extinguished. The world lost a star, but her children lost their mother. The false narrative surrounding her unaliving added another layer of trauma to an already devastating event. For Mariska, correcting this myth became part of her journey. She wanted to reclaim the dignity of her mother's final moments, separating the woman she loved from the sensationalized stories that followed her even in her passing. She is buried in Pennsylvania, her tombstone bearing the simple, loving inscription, "We live to love you more each day." After the devastating loss of their mother, Mariska and her brothers, Mickey Jr. and Zoltan, faced an uncertain future. Their world had been turned upside down in an instant. The person who had been the center of their universe was gone. It was their father, Mariska Hargitay, who stepped in to provide the stability and love they desperately needed. A former Mr. Universe and an actor himself, Mickey had been divorced from Jayne for a few years at the time of her passing. But his love for his children was unwavering, and he immediately took on the role of their sole protector and guide. Mariska Hargitay created a new life for his children, far from the glare of the Hollywood spotlight that had defined their early years. He remarried a kind and caring woman named Ellen Ciano, who became a true mother figure to the children. Mariska grew up calling Ellen Mom, and she provided the nurturing presence that was so essential for a young girl grieving an unimaginable loss. Together, Mickey and Ellen built a home grounded in love, support, and normalcy. They focused on creating a stable environment where the children could heal and grow without the constant pressures of their mother's fame. This upbringing was profoundly influential for Mariska. While she had lost her biological mother, she was given the gift of a loving and devoted family. Mickey was her hero, a man of incredible strength and compassion. He rarely spoke of Jayne, perhaps to shield his children from further pain, but his actions demonstrated his deep commitment to their well-being. He taught Mariska about resilience, integrity, and, the importance of family. The bond they shared was incredibly close and would remain a cornerstone of Mariska's life until Mickey's unaliving in 2006. The quiet, private life that Mickey and Ellen provided was a world away from the Pink Palace and the constant presence of cameras. It allowed Mariska to have a childhood, to just be a kid, rather than the daughter of a famous movie star. This foundation of unconditional love and security gave her the strength to eventually confront her past and explore the legacy of the mother she had lost. Mariska Hargitay did more than just raise his children. He gave them the emotional tools they would need to navigate their complex inheritance and build their own successful, happy lives. Growing up, I found myself in a constant struggle with my mother's towering legacy. Jayne Mansfield's image was everywhere, in old movies, on magazine covers, and in the sensational stories that people told. But the image the world knew was the blonde bombshell, a persona that felt alien and disconnected from the mother I longed for. This public perception was a heavy burden for a young woman trying to forge her own identity. I felt that people saw me only as Jayne Mansfield's daughter, expecting me to be a carbon copy of a woman I barely remembered. This pressure led me to consciously distance myself from my mother's image. I actively rebelled against the glamour and glamour appeal that had defined Jayne's career. As a young actress, I sought out tomboy roles and adopted a more understated style. I just didn't want to be compared to my mother or feel like I was living in her shadow. It was, honestly, an act of self-preservation, a way to carve out my own space in the world and be seen for who I was, not for who my mother had been.